YouTubers, wherever you are, whatever it is, maybe it's not morning. Welcome to my channel. Today is book review day and I'm super excited. I love books. Get me talking about my children, my grandchildren, books, and kind of a foodie. Those are fun things to talk about. And today's book review day, adult books. I'm doing adult books today, so come on in and join me. The first book we're going to be discussing is called The Paradigm by Jonathan Cahn. Okay, this one, I would consider this in my top 10 and a must read. You will find it completely fascinating. I'll read what the jacket says. Prepare to uncover the mystery behind your world that will shock and amaze you as you begin a journey of nearly 3,000 years from an arid Middle Eastern landscape to American soil, from ancient palaces to the White House, from ruthless kings and queens to mysterious priests and priestesses, secrets and scandals, idols and gods, prophets and holy men, signs, portents, wonders, and harbingers, as you discover how each of these things holds a mystery that has determined your world and held your life. He's a New York Times best-selling author, super knowledgeable rabbi out of New York, I believe. He's very well researched. I've been watching him with his preaching and teaching for years. I have his other book called The Harbinger, which is excellent. I would put both The Paradigm and The Harbinger on the top 10 must-read list. I'm going to read one page out of it for you, just to give you an idea of what he writes like. And you can fact check anything that's in his books. I challenge you to go back and fact check any of his historical facts, scriptural facts, and they're spot on. And it's entertaining reading and exciting and surprising. So I'm going to read on page 133, just to give you an idea of how he writes and how he teaches. As we have seen, calamity would come to America on September 11th, 2001. And behind it was the nation's arch nemesis, Osama bin Laden. It would come, according to the paradigm, 3 years after the president's confession to the day. But what happened after 9/11? As soon as it was determined that bin Laden was the mastermind of the attack, he became the most wanted man on earth. And thus began the most extensive and costly manhunt in world history. A reward of $25 million was offered for his capture. Al-Qaeda agents were rounded up and interrogated in secret prisons around the world. Intelligence agencies spent countless hours listening in on telephone calls and analyzing emails and satellite images. Early rumors were that bin Laden had been killed or gravely injured, or was suffering from kidney failure, or had died of natural causes. It soon became obvious that if bin Laden wasn't already dead, he had completely eluded all efforts to detect his whereabouts. All the investigative efforts of American intelligence agencies and of intelligence agencies throughout the world had produced no tangible results. By 2005, within the CIA, it was widely believed that all leads in the hunt for bin Laden had grown cold. National security and intelligence officials believed that bin Laden was living in the remote mountainous region in between Afghanistan and Pakistan. This commonly held assumption proved to be false. Bin Laden turned out to be living in a compound in the midst of a populated area in Pakistan. He was hiding in plain sight. It was by a series of quirks, guesses, leads, and turns of events at the right time after years of exhaustive pursuit that the most massive manhunt in history would finally close in on its object. The events leading up to the death of Ben-Hadad would begin with Elisha, a citizen of Israel, the same kingdom against which Ben-Hadad had warred and invaded. It would be his words given in secret to Hazael and concerning Ben-Hadad's death that would set in motion the assassination. The events leading up to the death of the nemesis will originate from the same nation that the nemesis had warred against and invaded. The events that would lead to the death of Osama bin Laden would originate from the same nation the terrorist had threatened, warred against, and invaded on 9/11, America. The plans that would lead up to the assassination would first be conceived in secret in U.S. intelligence headquarters. In the ancient account, the judgment is initiated by supernatural means. Elisha speaks of things he can only know by divine agency. I'm going to leave it there so there's more left to your surprise. This book is full of astonishing information. It's well written, easily read. I love this book, and The Harbinger as well. This one is on the must read, and I would say The Harbinger for anybody who's been alive for the last 20 years should read that. All right, this book is also on my top 10 list. It's called Sacred Fire, George Washington's Sacred Fire by Peter A. Lilback with Jerry Newcomb. And it was a #1 national bestseller. It's an older book, I think about a dozen years old. It's big, it's thick, but fear not. Let me show you the endnotes are. All right. This much of the book is appendix and endnotes. And they're worth reading. Definitely good. But fear not. The whole book is not that big. I am going to read to you the contents so you can kind of see where it's going. The dedication is a good way to begin. To the children of America, past, present, and future, especially to those who have ever wondered, was George Washington a Christian? Part 1 is the controversy. Shades of meaning, shades of truth. Did Washington avoid the name of Jesus Christ? Addressing a fundamental argument. Part 2, the historical background of George Washington. Washington's Virginia and the Anglican mission to the Indians. George Washington's Virginian ancestors. Part 3, the life of George Washington. The childhood, the Christian education, the personality, the soldier. George Washington on character and honor. The sacred fire of liberty. Was George Washington a godly leader? George Washington's family life. Part 4, George Washington the Churchman. Part 5, the debate over George Washington and communion. Part 6, George Washington the Deist. Part 7, George Washington the Christian. And the conclusion, as I said, the whole last part of the book practically is the appendix and the endnotes. I'm going to go ahead and read this one page to you just to give you an idea of how it reads. It's not highly complex, and it's varied. It's very varied, so it holds my interest very well. General Orders, Friday, April 18th, 1783. The Commander-in-Chief orders the cessation of hostiles between the United States of America and the King of Great Britain to be publicly proclaimed tomorrow at 12 o'clock at the new building, and that the proclamation will be communicated herewith. Be read tomorrow evening at the head of every regiment and corps of the army. After which the chaplains with the several brigades will render thanks to Almighty God for all his mercies, particularly for over his ruling the wrath of man to his own glory and causing the rage of war to cease amongst the nations. During the Constitutional Convention in 1787, when a passionate plea to turn to God for help came from none other than Benjamin Franklin, Washington ostensibly was in complete agreement. As the new president, Washington wrote to the ministers, church wardens, and vestrymen of the German Lutheran congregation in and near Philadelphia on April 27, 1789. I shall earnestly desire the continuation of an interest in our intercessions at the throne of grace. In short, Washington said, keep praying for me. So that gives you an idea pretty much what the whole book is like. And certainly I would love for you to put in the comments any books you think I should read. I love to read. A lot. My favorites are history, inspiration, self-help, children's books, cookbooks, just in current events books. Once in a while I'll read a novel. I joined a book club with my daughter-in-law, and we are having the best fun just having a random book thrown at us that we can enjoy and pick apart. And the ladies there are wonderful. I just moved to the Carolinas a couple of years ago, and some of these ladies, they're amazing. They grew up around here, and they share a lot of personal history that you wouldn't otherwise get just reading from a book. They'll tell about their lives and what it was like to grow up around here. Sorry about the wobbling. My dog has decided she's gonna sit on the camera there. All right, she seems to be settling in. This next book, I would not put this in my top 10. I'm glad I read it. It's probably in my top 100. It's written by a #1 New York Times best-selling author. Again, it wouldn't be in my top 10. I'm super glad I read it. It speaks about some very real facts wrapped in a fictional story. And it says it's called The Overton Window, a thriller. And it is that. It's definitely a thriller. I'm not much of a one for reading thrillers. I'm not into thrillers or horror books. So, but I did read this and I enjoyed it. It was good. I'm glad I read it. Let me see if I can find where I want to read to you. The characters are perfection. It's about a young man named Noah who, he's kind of a young yuppie with a I don't care attitude, and he tumbles into this world of the reality of the times and into the history of his time. And from one minute to the next, you don't know what's going to happen. If this book is a thriller, then it's definitely that. And of course, he falls in love, which is always good. I love stories that tell history through a romantic couple. Yeah, I'm going to read a little bit here. He closed the book carefully and gave it back to her. Molly? Yes. Hit me with a little Thomas Paine. She shook his hand and spoke quietly as they walked. These are the times that try men's souls, Molly said. The summer soldier and the sunshine patriot will, in this crisis, shrink from the service of our country. But he that stands by it now deserves the love and thanks of man and woman. Tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered. Yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph. What we obtain too cheap, we esteem too lightly. It is dearness only that gives everything its value. Heaven knows how to put a proper price upon its goods, and it would be strange indeed if so celestial an article as freedom should not be highly rated. Back in Molly's section of the loft, she gave Noah his iced tea and took a seat on the edge of her hammock. He sat on a nearby divan made from crates, a simple frame, and random cushions. The tea turned out to be as sweet as she warned it would be, but it was good. It's absolutely comical to see this Noah character who has had an extremely privileged life. It's almost like George Soros is his dad or something. That's the life he's used to. And this woman, Molly, that he's tumbled into having a crush on, is the daughter of an activist, and she opens his eyes immensely to what's going on in the real world. I think you'll enjoy it, but be fair warned, it is a thriller. It definitely keeps you on the edge of your seat. This one probably would be in my top 50. The next one, I'm going to do 5 books today because I love books. I thought about doing 1, but I'm doing 5. This book is called The Greatest Generation by Tom Brokaw. I'm going to read the first paragraph of the sleeve. In the spring of 1984, I went to the northwest of France, to Normandy, to prepare an NBC documentary on the 40th anniversary of D-Day, the massive and daring Allied invasion of Europe that marked the beginning of the end of Adolf Hitler's Third Reich. There, I underwent a life-changing experience. As I walked the beaches with the American veterans who had returned for this anniversary, men in their 60s and 70s, and listened to their stories, I was deeply moved and profoundly grateful for all they had done. 10 years later, I returned to Normandy for the 50th anniversary of the invasion, and by then I'd come to understand what this generation of Americans meant to history. It is, I believe, the greatest generation any society has ever produced. And I will read you a page out of this, which Marion Rivers, who married Carl Nittel after the war, wonders about that when she visits cemeteries to decorate graves on Memorial Day. They never found my husband's brother, who was lost at sea. For many years I kept his gold naval wings in my jewelry box. Recently I gave him to his daughter, who was just 2 months old when he died. She never knew him. The war never ends. There are so many memories. Marion's husband keeps his World War II Army uniform hanging neatly in his closet wherever they live, a mute reminder of a time when he answered the call to duty. Marion and Carl stayed in the Attleboro area, raising a son and a daughter. In 1968, she went back to work and developed a successful career as a writer for a technical company, the first woman in that firm to head a department. Nonetheless, she worries that too many women these days are more interested in work than they are in their family, simply because they want to have more things. As a child of the Depression, Marion doesn't remember that being a bad time, because all the neighbors got together to help each other. At Christmas, they would go into the basements of their homes to make gifts. No one has time for families anymore. So that was your sample of The Greatest Generation by Tom Brokaw. Okay. Last but not least, book number 5 is probably my favorite book. I know it's my favorite author, Jan Karon. She's the author of the best-selling Mitford Years novels. I believe there's 14 of them. And smack dab in the middle is one called Light from Heaven. Whew. If you binge on those Netflix series, I really, really love one in particular that's on Hallmark, where it's set in a little village and you get all attached to the characters. This is a story of I'll read this. Father Timothy Cavanaugh has been asked to come up higher more than once. He did, after all, raise a thrown-away boy, adopt a dog the size of a Buick, and recite his wedding vows at the tender age of 60-something, but he's never been asked to do the impossible. This lady writes with such detail, but with such ease. You feel like you're caught up in the scene. You feel like you're literally sitting in the easy chair watching the scene unfold. And I became so attached to all the different characters. Best of all, there's no smut. There's no, I don't know. It's just a very easy, wonderful old time. It's set in North Carolina in a town called Mitford. Now, Mitford is an actual town in South Carolina where I live, but this is an imaginary town named Mitford in North Carolina. And I'm going to read you a little piece of this one as well. He gets married to a woman named Cynthia, and his name is Father Tim. She gives you every little detail. I don't know, it's like jumping into a painting or something. They'd even walked outside to watch the hickory smoke roll from the chimney like exhaust from a locomotive. Snatched by a fall wind, it vanished above the gorge. "Drawn good," said the installer. Father Tim had inhaled deeply, intoxicated by a fragrance that resonated back to his early childhood. Indeed, the old stove would be their thurible. Cynthia rode home in the red pickup with Dooley and Sammy, each scented with beeswax. The vicar hung a left on the road by the creek in the direction of Lambert. "Hey, Dad!" "Hey, son, what's up?" "We won't be coming out for dinner. Lace and I are taking Sammy and the kids for pizza and a movie." "Too bad, you'll miss our okra stew." "I'm really grieving over that. Glad you're using your cell phone." Feels good to catch up with the rest of the world. He didn't mention that he used it primarily to talk with Dooley and maybe 4 times in as many months to phone Cynthia when he was batting around Mitford. "You and Sammy, be careful coming home. You know that stretch by, right?" "Have we found out whether Lace will be with us for Christmas?" "Yes, sir. The Harpers definitely have to go to Dallas for 3 days. She'd like to stay with us if that's okay." "That's great. Better watch yourself in that red truck. I've seen a few police cars parked in the bushes on Got it, Dad. We love you, buddy. Love you back. He stretched his legs like the warmth of the kitchen fire on when his father had called his sock feet. Oh, the piece of a job well done. Holy Trinity was ready for the big event. They were polished to the nines, and since he'd written his sermon on Wednesday, he'd gained the unfrayed liberty of Saturday. Now that your calendar's done, Kavanaugh, why don't we find some trouble to get into? I haven't been in trouble for ages. I'd love that. What sort of trouble would you prefer? Maybe something to do with antiques? I'd love a little table with a drawer to go by your chair at home. We could dash into Mitford and see what Andrew has these days, or walking in the woods and listening to leaves crunch underfoot, and finding the waterfall Granny told us about. I'll arrange everything. Truck or car? Truck. Morning, afternoon, or full day? Full day. Lunch in a basket or in a restaurant? In a basket. Consider it done. The okra smells good. It's all yours, darling. His wife wouldn't touch stewed okra. He felt it his sworn duty to eat all that Sammy had planted and Lily had frozen, which was enough to last through March if he was persistent. Cynthia opened the oven door and checked the roasting chicken. The scent of rosemary and lemon infused the air. You left Hope's letter for me to read, but if you'd read it aloud, that would be even better. He went to the table where he'd left the letter. Makes me want to read it again. So that was Jen Karen, Light from Heaven. This is about midway through the Mitford series. Amazing writer, lives in North Carolina, has a museum up there. She also has a cookbook. The cookbook's fun because all these characters that are in the book, their recipes are in the cookbook. So you can find your favorite character and look up whatever, the pie that they made. And here's her pet. She's restored a farm. I believe she's in her 80s now. And I don't believe she's writing anymore, which is a pity. I think she should write till forever. All right. Don't forget to like and subscribe. That's all for today. I will be coming out with probably one short video during the week, and I will see you next Friday. Thank you for watching my channel. Thank you for joining my book review. Please write in the comments your super favorite top 10 books. I promise I will read them. Try to not pick a thriller or a horror book. They're not my favorite. But we'll check into it and see what each other's favorite books are. You have no idea. I'm a retired teacher, so I qualify to say this. Reading is so good for your mind. I'm in my late 60s now. A lot of friends are saying, oh, I'm worried about getting Alzheimer's or, different things. And I said, read. There's a lot of different things that will help your mind. Knitting is good, learning a language, learning a musical instrument. Pick up an old instrument that you used to play in high school. But reading's awesome, and it can be done anywhere. Books are portable. They even have all those nooks you can read on your cell phone. It's not possible to say I can't read. The library where I live is letting us check out as many books as we want. You can't even carry as many books as you would like to carry out of the library, and they're renewing the books 2 times without even asking you. So there's no excuse not to read in this day and age. There's lots of little free libraries when you're driving through neighborhoods. Make sure you look for like a little 4x4 with a box on top. It looks like a giant mailbox. Those are little free libraries that people have put up. Generally speaking, you leave a book and take a book. Like, in other words, you give them one of your books that you think someone would enjoy, and you take a book. So it's a free deal. Read. And it's not even reading month yet, but I'm going to be bugging you to read on my channel because it's so much fun and it's really, really good for your brain. Helps children, helps grandmas and grandpas, and it opens up a whole new world for your mind. It's like you can travel, you can learn things inside a book. Okay, I love you everybody. Like and subscribe. God bless you.